As you know, it's important to me that the supplements I recommend and use are of the highest quality. That's why I stock the Protocol for Life Balance product line at my online dispensary, drhoffman.com/Protocol for Life Balance. Protocol for Life Balance offers a wide range of professional-grade products using ingredients backed by strong scientific research, including a suite of supplements specifically designed to support neurological health and cognition: Coggumin SLCP, Magtine, phosphatidylserine, and Brain Regain. Coggumin SLPC is curcumin optimized to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, where it helps protect brain tissue. Magtine may support healthy cognitive function, learning, and memory. Phosphatidylserine supports neuronal membrane fluidity, promoting cognitive function and mental acuity. And Brain Regain is a broadly useful herbal health aid that may be advantageous for supporting healthy cognitive performance. For more information and to order, just go to drhoffman.com/Protocol for Life Balance. That's drhoffman.com/Protocol for Life Balance. Protocol for Life Balance is an A-rated GMP manufacturer of premium dietary supplements.
Welcome to Leyla Weighs In, here on the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I like to say network. Thanks for downloading these podcasts. I'm your host, Leyla Muden. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist here in New York. If you'd like to make an appointment with me, call the number 212-779-1744. Again, 212-779-1744. If you'd like to email me the question that you'd like to hear me answer, weigh in on, take a deep dive on, or a topic of interest to you that you think is worthy of airing on this podcast, questions@drhoffman.net. That's questions@drhoffman.net. And speaking of questions, that's what I have for you today. I've got an email here from Jeff. Jeff says, I was listening to your podcast about the use of copper and resveratrol on glioblastomas. I was wondering if copper and resveratrol might have prophylactic effects against precancerous cells or cancer formation. For those of you, this is a podcast I did a few weeks ago. It was just recent. So it was in the month of February, most definitely. If you go to if you want to listen to that podcast before I answer Jeff here, just to get yourself familiar with that study, I'm just going to touch on some bullet points about that study before I answer him. You could go to drhoffman.com, go to listen. On the drop-down menu, it will show you podcasts, and we'll show you the most recent ones there that you can go back and listen to. This was a test that was done. This was done in India. The attenuation of malignant phenotype of glioblastoma is a type of malignant brain tumor that is often fatal, more often than not. Attenuation of malignant phenotype of glioblastoma following a short course of the pro-oxidant combination of resveratrol and copper. And really, what they did is they investigated this novel therapeutic approach to glioblastoma that targets these cell-free chromatin particles that are released from the dying glioblastoma cells that aggravate the living glioblastoma cells, right? And how that happens is with the addition, and this was a very small study, it was the addition of copper and resveratrol in not very large doses, but this was written in BJC Reports. BJC Reports, it was published September 30, 2025. and it's called Attenuation of Malignant Phenotype of Glioblastoma Following a Short Course of the Pro-Oxidant Combination of Resveratrol and Copper. So, 10 patients with glioblastoma awaiting surgery were administered 5.6 milligrams of resveratrol and 560 nanograms of copper 4 times a day for an average of 11.6 plus or minus 5 days. Another 10 patients who did not receive the resveratrol copper treatment acted as controls. So, what they found was the treatment group led to marked deactivation of these chromatins that were released by the dying glioblastoma that were present in the tumor microenvironment. So what happened was the addition of the copper and the resveratrol was able to deactivate these chromatin particles, these cell-free chromatin particles, which were kind of fueling the growth of more glioblastoma. So the reactive oxygen species, the ROS that was generated by these antioxidants, resveratrol and copper, deactivates these cell-free chromatin particles, which was desirable, right? So that the hallmarks of cancer would go down, the immune checkpoints, stem cell markers, all of these kind of things, and that's how it worked. Now, Jeff's question is, I was listening to your podcast about the use of copper and resveratrol on glioblastomas. I was wondering if copper and resveratrol might have prophylactic effects against precancerous cells or cancer formation. I don't know is the answer, because what needs to happen following a study like this, which is very encouraging, but it's a very small study. And therefore, what we need to see in research like this is more replication to see if the result would be the same, that they see the same positive results. They need to do more and more studies on larger and larger populations to see if they get the same results. That there were these downstream effects and encouraging effects that were kind of helping the cancer, the aggravation and the proliferation of more malignant cells to go down with the treatment of copper and resveratrol. They need to be able to duplicate the study again with larger populations in a few more studies, not just one more study, but a few more studies. That's how the scientific research works. To see if there is some remarkable outcome where copper and resveratrol can be applied that maybe can have prophylactic effects against precancerous cells or even cancerous formation. Now, in the meantime, is there any danger to taking some resveratrol? Maybe you're taking some already. There's certainly some copper in your multivitamin, maybe 1, 2, or 3 milligrams of it, right? Or micrograms of it. So you have to see. Would there be harm in taking these supplements? Best to check first with your practitioner. If you're not used to taking supplements, or you have various medical conditions or certain medications you're taking that might interact with certain supplements, best to have that checked out. But if you're already taking these supplements, I don't see any harm. But again, this podcast is not a consult, right? You want to get a complete assessment with a practitioner that is very well versed in nutrition, or your nutritionist, a qualified nutritionist. But this was the study. And although it's very small in its population, it's very encouraging. these results because the point of it was to not kill the cancer with chemo and radiation, but to help it heal. That was the objective, to see if the body itself couldn't heal it with the addition of these antioxidants, resveratrol and copper. Jeff, we'll be keeping our eye on future studies of this. And as more and more scientific researchers are looking to natural supplements, vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, to see if these can be beneficial as a treatment with the objective of healing a cancer, not destroying it with poison, aka chemotherapy, or burning, aka radiation, which have been shown over many decades as to not be the greatest treatments because of their side effects and their impact on the patient. There are often side effects which affect quality of life, most definitely. So, Jeff, thank you for that very, very thoughtful question. For those of you who want to email me, questions@drhoffman.net, questions@drhoffman.net. I have additional questions from Barbara. Let me read Barbara's email here. Leyla says giving up all grains, including quinoa, which is not a grass family grain, but a seed in the spinach family. Leyla says giving up all grains is the secret to combating stalled weight loss. Well, what affordable breakfast foods are left to eat besides eggs and bacon or sausage? What for starchy snacks that calm my anxiety and help me sleep? I can see cutting back on gluten and sugar, but complex carbs. I can make protein-rich baked goods, but give up oatmeal? The point of being thin if one is miserable? Great questions, Barbara. I have an additional question regarding this article I wrote. The article is this pantry stable stalling your weight loss? Anne writes, with reference to Leyla's topic in the newsletter about getting rid of grains from our daily diet, she doesn't mention what can be eaten in its place. I'm going to respond to Anne's question first because it's one question, and I'm going to get into Barbara's questions after that. What can be eaten in its place? If you're removing grains, which is a good idea if your weight loss is stalled, you're getting too many carbs, your blood sugar is impacted, it's secreting insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, eat more meat in its place. Eat more non-starchy vegetables in its place. That answer is pretty simple. That's what you do. Eat more of the food that's on your plate, sans the grains, without the grains. Add more vegetables to your plate. Have a bigger steak, a bigger portion of salmon, a bigger omelet. Maybe add a small salad to your meal along with your cooked vegetables and your chicken, your burger, your steak, right? Your seafood, your omelet, your crustless quiche. Crustless because the crust would be great. Have more of the food that you're eating. That's what you do. There isn't anything to eat in its place. It's not as if the grain portion was essential. It's not. Think about our Stone Age ancestors. Nary was a grain available. You know, it was the animals they killed, and it was some of the roots, shoots, plants, fruits, when the weather was better. Nary a grain really was there. With regard to Barbara's question, what affordable breakfast foods are left to eat besides eggs, bacon, and sausage? We have to get out of the breakfast box. We have to think out of the box for breakfast because we're not having cereal anymore, right? We're not having pancakes anymore. We're not having toast. We're not having dry cereal. We're not having a bowl of oatmeal. We're not having a bagel, right? That's what we're not doing. So whatever you've been eating for lunch and for dinner, have the leftovers from that. Have your leftover salmon, right, for breakfast. Maybe on a bed of arugula with some avocado slices. Maybe eat the leftovers from your lunch the day before. Maybe you have some leftover tuna salad or chicken salad or shrimp salad. You could stuff half an avocado with that, eat that for breakfast, or just eat it straight. Just have some, right? You've had steak for dinner. You've heard of steak and eggs for breakfast. Have your leftover steak. Make sure there's enough food for your dinner, for your lunch that you could have left over for breakfast. It solves a problem for you because you're already having that food, right? So there are lots of options here. Barbara also asks, what about starchy snacks that calm my anxiety and help my sleep? Many of you would find a benefit to having some starch with your dinner to help you sleep. That little bit of secretion of insulin with a little bit of starch at your dinner can help with the use of tryptophan in your diet, maybe to help you sleep, for that serotonin to move on to melatonin to help with your sleep. You don't need a grain for that. You could have some starchy vegetables. You can have squashes, butternut squash, other squashes, right? You can have, in addition, some spaghetti squash. You can have a baked potato or a sweet potato. You don't need a large portion of that. Maybe you're going to have some succotash, the addition of beans with some corn, right? Yes, corn is a grain, but when you're having kernel corn like that, it's far less, it's not like you're having polenta or some cornmeal or something like that. Some of you benefit with a little bit of starch, like a sweet potato or a baked potato or some succotash or some butternut squash or other types of squash. You don't need a big portion of that. You don't need more than a quarter cup or a half cup of that. Now, with regard to calming your anxiety, Barbara, let's find out the source of your anxiety. What's causing anxiety? You have to investigate that. Because in integrative and functional medicine and nutrition, we're looking for root causes. And we're also looking for the root cause of why you can't sleep. Can you not sleep because you're anxious? Okay, then we need to delve into what's causing the anxiety. Maybe it's something biochemical. Maybe you're deficient in certain nutrients like omega-3 fats. Maybe you're deficient in B vitamins, B12. Maybe you're deficient in magnesium. Maybe it's not a true deficiency, but your levels aren't optimal. This is what a qualified nutritionist can help you resolve. Maybe that's the source of your anxiety. Maybe there are certain food allergens in your diet that you're currently eating that's contributing to that. Maybe there's some caffeine lurking here and there or other stimulants in your diet or your beverages that are contributing to your not being able to sleep well, right? We shouldn't need grains to calm down. Barbara says, I can make protein-rich baked goods, but give up oatmeal? Hey, okay. Negotiate with yourself. Say you're giving up grains for the most part for a stalled weight loss. I'm talking to folks who are having trouble reaching a healthy weight. I'm suggesting to them that they lower their carbohydrates, and I suggest they do that by getting rid of the grains because the grains contain the most carbohydrates of everything they're currently eating. I'm talking about that in addition to a healthy diet of good quality animal protein and low glycemic and non-starchy vegetables with some occasional, low sugar fruit to eat as a dessert. I'm talking to those folks and whose weight loss is stalled. Barbara, maybe you're going to have a bowl of oatmeal Sunday morning. Maybe you're going to have another bowl of oatmeal on Thursday morning. Maybe instead of having it every day, maybe as you have been, I don't know what you've been doing, you're going to have less of it. Maybe you're going to have half the amount of starches than you've currently been having. That's still helpful because you're lowering your grain intake. Therefore, you're lowering your carbohydrate intake. All of this is helpful. But Barbara, I want to thank you for your very thoughtful questions. I would still encourage you to investigate what's going on with the anxiety and with your trouble sleeping. You really need to investigate that because, again, here in integrative nutrition and functional nutrition, we're always looking for a root cause. And when we take care of the root cause, everything gets better. Your anxiety is gone. Your sleep is better. A lot of things are taken care of. And then maybe you can reintroduce a little more oatmeal or the protein-rich snacks that you're baking. If you require some snacks, that's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own tolerance to the amount of carbohydrates in their diet, and that's what you need to look at if you've reached a weight loss plateau where it's not really where you should be because you have a few more pounds to lose, right? That's the population I'm talking to. And again, I welcome your questions. I appreciate them. questions@drhoffman.net. That's questions@drhoffman.net. And I want to thank you for joining me on another edition of Leyla Weighs In here on Intelligent Medicine.
I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations.
This is Leyla Muden, registered dietitian nutritionist. I maintain a private practice and see patients regularly. If you require a nutrition consult with me but live out of town, there's no need to travel to New York City. I have telephone and telehealth consultations with clients from all over the country. Please visit drhoffman.com for more information. And to set up an appointment, call 212-779-1744. That's 212-779-1744. I look forward to being a collaborator in your healthcare.